This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.
What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast. I'm really excited. This is someone that I've had a chance to get to know personally and seen his amazing work. David Garibaldi is a world-renowned performance painter who provides his audiences with a magical experience combining paint, sound, and entertainment that collide for an entertaining show that has brought people around the world to their feet. His specialty is his rhythm and hue stage act, in which he rapidly creates paintings of notable rock musicians. Garibaldi transforms an empty canvas into a work of art through his skill, experience, inspiration, and senses. David, what is happening, my brother? How are you?
Doing amazing. Thanks for making the time today.
No, thank you, man. I know you're busy as can be. And truly, I don't know that any introduction I could do is going to do justice what you bring to the world, because without visually seeing it, I mean, I can't wait to hear you tell me the experience through word of mouth, but seeing it is really what's so unique to me. And it's inspiring, man. I've seen you do it live. I've seen the end result. How in the world did you figure out you had this skill, and how did you put this thing together?
Well, it definitely is a visual spectacle. I think that's, a part of the blessing and the curse of it about trying to explain it to people, because you have to see it. But it's really a collision of so many passions. And I didn't realize it until really even years after I started. Growing up, I was always an artist. I love to create, draw, you name it. Actually just posted on my Instagram a picture of this plate that I drew for my mom. I think it was in like 1987 or something. I don't know. I would literally draw on anything. But also the introduction of playing the trumpet in third grade. I went to a Capital Christian school in the Sacramento area, and thank God, literally they had a music program to introduce me to that. But I still stuck to art. I stuck to music, started doing that. But also I got into graffiti in middle school because I started getting into hip hop music. And when you're a creative in hip hop culture, they're just like, here's a spray can and some markers. And I just went with it. And I was happy with that. And then it was really in high school, I got more serious about art because they actually made me choose between music and art. So if you heard me play the trumpet, you would agree with me. And so I stuck to art, and I got into animation, and this teacher just completely changed my life, Mr. Sullivan, who we still talk now. But and it's sort of a bittersweet time, because I had really found my creative voice. I thought to myself, I'm going to be an animation artist. I'm going to work for Disney or Pixar. And then I didn't graduate high school. And so, that time in the beginning of high school, I really didn't care. It all caught up to me. And I just remember just feeling like that was the first time I really, really, really felt like I had lost. Because I didn't play a lot of sports. I had no other recollection of that. And also I had started dancing as well at the time. And so I really just went back to dance, and I was like, look, I'm just going to do some dance. I'm going to work some odd jobs. And I just couldn't shake the art. So I started, painting live, small paintings in jazz clubs and nightclubs in Sacramento. And then it was the introduction of the work of Denny Dent. And if anyone gets a chance, he was pure raw performance painter style, rock, like real rock and roll dude. I had just seen that, and it was like, boom, everything I love: art, music, movement. And that was it. I was 20 years old. I didn't graduate high school, and there was just no other looking back or any other option. I didn't think of anything else. So I just ran with it.
Well, I love the story because, again, when you say art, look, there are the very few that really come and to where they are rewarded financially the way that perhaps some of you have been able to. So it starts there. But even you talk about, painting the plate for your mom. I have to imagine as a mom, you're like, okay, what are we going to do with this art thing? And you're like, okay, I'm going to go Pixar and then don't graduate high school. How did you, brother, take it to where you've traveled the world now? You've shown audiences the world over. I know we see that today, but that journey had to be some bumps and bruises along the way. And I love that you've got to this mountaintop and you continue to climb. But tell me a little bit about that journey of knowing I found my passion, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Those were all the seeds planted early on. When I talk about the graffiti and the music and even animation, they all played such an equal important role in developing a live stage act that involves something like painting. For example, animation was really, yes, it's cool to bring art to life, but it's really based on story. And even understanding presentation and story, and then even dancing with one of the best dancers, the leader of the dance group based out of Sacramento. He went on to start Jabberwockies, who have a huge, they're like a pop phenomenon, and so I was learning this certain style of movement and presentation. So again, any other different part of that path, I don't think it would be what it is today. When like getting to do things like the NBA finals to like tours with, Kiss is just, I don't think it would have added up. I think there would have been something off still.
Well, I didn't know that about Jabberwockies, which I'm a huge fan, by the way. I'm kind of having my little geek out moment because I watched them on, I think it was AGT or that show on MTV, and now they're on the Strip. What's that?
America's Best Dance Group. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Such a good show. And I totally geeked out because those guys were so precise, so amazing. But anyway, we'll get back to you. I want to talk about, go ahead, brother.
I have to see your dance moves at some point.
Well, I'm not ashamed to show them. I'm not even saying they're great, but I just have no shame. Compared to those guys, it's shameful. That's what I will say. But I want to talk about the creative mindset because you have this ability to say, like, for instance, I'm very blessed to have a painting that you did of Aaron Rodgers. I'm a huge Packer fan, but your knowledge of so much of the world, whether you see something or your knowledge of the history, how do you take that? And unless you are just so in depth with all of this knowledge, because I've seen you with the sushi stuff that you've done and all the rock musicians, your depth of knowledge is just that incredible, or you have one of the quickest minds to be able to create that fast?
It's a little of both. So I would start with, it's funny saying this, that I'm a student because I didn't graduate high school, but I really think that being a student is this constant curiosity, and then answering this question, asking yourself constantly, well, what does their music sound like before I paint them? What does it feel like? And then you go into, well, what would people recognize? And you start asking yourself these questions, and then you start, maybe reading comments about how people thought about that song. And it's almost like becoming you're an artist, but also like an anthropologist and a historian and music critic, all these things in one. I just love music and I love creating, but I would add to this too, that the people that I study are people who have translated great ideas. They've every creative has this voice inside of them, or they have these visions, or they feel something in your heart. The hardest part is learning the tools and being disciplined to learn the tools to get it out to the world. So I love watching people who do that really well, from the Einsteins, who have these theories about relativity, to Jay-Z, how he would memorize his lyrics because he couldn't write it down, and then he would go do them in the studio, and then even seeing what had been built from that. So, and I can go on, but I just am so inspired by people who can translate this weird thing that you can't touch, you can't feel it, it's a creative idea, and then the discipline to learn the tools. And that's the translation, and that really never ends. And I think that as long as you're up for that journey, to like, for example, I'm looking at a crazy messy studio, but it's somewhat organized, but it's organized in a way where I can quickly create when I get ideas. And it's come a long way since when I started. And I keep in mind, how do I create a better space so I can get ideas out quickly? Because that's how I work best. I love the process, and I love watching people who are masters at their process.
Well, you clearly are a master, and you probably don't get a chance to watch the audience reaction unless you're seeing a video later of what we're doing. But we're in awe, or at least my jaw is literally, it's agape. And I'm watching you and I'm going, holy shit, how does he do this? I don't understand. I literally don't understand. My question to you is, you're obviously performing and it is an act to a degree, but do you have thought while you're doing it? Are you in that constant state of flow? Because to me, you look like you are just in this moment. So if you're actually thinking, again, I don't know how you process your brain that way, because it looks like you are just flowing the whole time. And then you whip the painting around and it's like, holy cow, he has created this perfect piece. And I don't understand it. My brain has a hard time to computate how you did it. So how do you think, or do you think while you're up there?
Yeah, there's a lot going on while I'm painting on stage. So yeah, I am going with the flow, but part of the flow is managing my thoughts. So there's a process that I've either prepared for, or I have some sort of plan in place. So I'm going about that plan. And then along the way, there's a part of the song that I know is coming up, and I'm gonna, you know what? Let's go over there and get blue and hit it on the canvas on that beat, because my purpose and goal is to create an entertaining experience for the audience. So I know, okay, that will add to that goal. And then as we continue on, it's some more thoughts like, okay, I need to come back and fix that eye, because there's now that blue that I splash is on the eye and it's a mess. So we're along this plan. We're going, yes, I know I can envision the journey ahead, but as we're on journeys, things come up, things happen. There's like some twists and turns that I come across on these portraits. And over time, I've been able to manage my thoughts better in those moments so that it doesn't overtake the ultimate goal of entertaining an audience. But I can always go back. I can always go back to the process that I know what I need to do. But it's just a lot of managing thoughts in the moment. And that's really the fun part of it, is allowing creativity to still take place, even when you have a plan.
Well, and what's amazing to me is, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of the KISS concert, of the Final Four, of the NBA Finals. I mean, we're talking 25, 30, 40, 50,000 people. They're not exactly being quiet. They're oohing, they're awing, they're screaming, and yet you just come to the moment. So I imagine in your studio, the studio that you're looking at, it's quiet, other than maybe music you put on, and then yet you can perform that well in front of so many. Is that just it? Does it feed you to hear people really, to feel their emotion as well?
Yes, it's a different feeling painting in my studio than it is on stage now. And what comes with that is a different result. So the paintings in my studio are not as free. It's a completely different outcome. The paintings on stage are not as perfect or precise, but it could never be created any other way. It will never be perfect and precise, because there's that energy. There's even that awkward energy in the beginning. I don't know what it was like when the first time you saw me perform, but there's a little bit of this awkwardness. We're like, I don't know if I should cheer or not. Some people are, but I don't know why, because it looks like an abstract mess. And then this energy from the audience as it comes to life. Now, I know that it's mostly going to look good at the end. I'm going to work hard but to really feel that energy shift in the audience, I live for that. And also, you can't, it's such a rare thing, because you're not in control of that either. Like, I know I'm part of it, but I'm not in control. And the audience is going to decide whether they're really into it or just kind of into it. And the painting will always reflect that outcome. And but honestly, over the past year and a half, I've had a lot of time to paint in my studio, and I also love that. Matter of fact, we went wine tasting in Napa recently. I'm sitting there, the wind blowing, trees, sipping some wine. I'm thinking, why am I performing at these loud concerts? I need to get into this world. This is pretty cool, pretty chill.
I think that's the best chance I have of actually painting something decent is about a bottle and a half of red wine in. I got a shot. Now I want to get serious. I want to ask you because you have this ability to take your passion and it is clearly you've turned it into a very profitable career. And I think that's what everyone's looking for is look, find something you love and then make money at it and help other people with it. All the amazing things that you've been able to do by creating this abundant, wealth. How in the heck did you figure out how to do that, brother?
I don't think I really figured it out. I think that again, as opportunity arose or arise, I don't know the right way to put that, but as the opportunity came, every show that I did, I always thought bigger. I always thought that like, okay, I'm gonna do this one show, but I'm gonna get 3 or 4 from this. So I need to do really well for this client, but I need to go above and beyond. And so whatever I was getting paid at the time, even now, I always consider giving more value. So if I was getting paid 5 figures, I'm going to give them 6 figures of value for what I'm doing because I think that that extra value will pay off somehow. And then it creates this, and it did. It created a momentum of opportunity where at some point, we get hundreds of inquiries a year in a normal live show year. And then we do about 100 of those inquiries, of shows. So I think part of it is constant improvement. So when a client looks into me from maybe 5 years ago, they can see, wow, he's still progressing. It's not the same person, not the same show. It's better. And then every time I put my show, which is my product, out in the world, just giving more value. I think people sell themselves short when they nickel and dime opportunities. They're like, well, they're giving me this, so I'm going to give them that. It's like, look, that's for the moment. I think you got to constantly create for the future, and that's how future opportunities come. And I've, been blessed to be able to have now an 18 plus year career out of, creating the best experiences that I can for people live on stage, and just always wanting to give more and more and more and more.
Yeah, and I want to get into that word give because it is like part of your DNA. And I don't want to quote the number because I've heard it several times and it may have grown and evolved since. But you had something specific to giving back, to philanthropy. This is part of who you are, not only as an artist, as a professional, as a human being. Can you talk about what it meant to you to give back X amount in your journey? Because I know that was really important in your journey.
Yes. It was really about giving as I go. So early on, I realized that I was able to convert a few $100s in material into tens of thousands of dollars of the paintings being auctioned off. And so I was being paid some minimal amount, whatever it was. But again, this value was in auctions, was going, the paintings for tens of thousands of dollars, auctioned off for really life-changing causes, everything from Special Olympics to youth charities. I mean, women's empowerment, you name it. It was things that I believed in. And I thought this is the craziest thing to turn this color liquid on a surface into that. I just thought, what's another crazy thing? Since this is already crazy, let's set a goal. So I set a goal at 25. Let's raise $1 million by the time I turn 30. So this wasn't, I get to 30, I've got this money, I'm going to give back. We're going to give as we go on this journey. So incorporating philanthropy with the creativity. And I think that any business or entrepreneur can do the same in some way. I mean, we do that. If you go to church, you tithe, you're giving as you go. You don't get to the end. You're like, all right, God, here's everything. And so that allowed me to filter out opportunities that weren't going to help me give as I go. It helped me stay focused on really where I wanted to go in the future of my career. And also it brought opportunities that just doing things for profit would never bring me. And I'll give one example. I got to go on tour with the band Kiss in 2019, and I got a call early 2019, and it was from their manager, Doc, and he said, "Hey, we want to have you come out on tour." I'm like, "Are you sure you're calling the right David Garibaldi? Because there's another one. He's a drummer. He's a very famous, rock and roll drummer." She's like, "No, you, the artist." And I said, "Why?" I'm like trying to talk him out of it now. And he said, "No, we look, we've done the bands, but this is our last tour, and we want to give back. They want to give as they go. And so we want you to perform and entertain the audience, but also we want to auction off one of the paintings of the band to a local charity in each market that we go into." And I just thought, if I was just an entertaining artist, let's just play devil's advocate. I don't think that I would have gotten that opportunity, because I would have just been about the nickel and diming, like, what's my fee? I'm going to give you that. Instead, that momentum that we built over time, which is just give more value, give as we go. Someone like that band, sees it as, look, we can incorporate giving as part of this. So we actually started off by just doing 10 dates. That was the first, like, let's just see how it goes. And then 10 dates turned into 40 across North America. And then we went to Europe, and then we came back to North America, which ended up being 80 plus dates. And we raised close to about $700,000 for various charities, most of it to Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I just say all that because that's one example of opportunities that came just from giving as we go. And so I'm going to keep doing that because I can only imagine now what will come on top of still just, being a great performer and artist. And there are opportunities that just come for that. There's a lot of great stuff, but there's those other special ones that philanthropy can really open the door to some incredible opportunities.
Well, it's something everybody can get behind. Like, look, there's this awesome product that I get to see. I get to be entertained and I get to give back. That makes total sense. So I'm guessing you hit the million by 30, no problem.
Yeah, we hit the million by 30. We are well past 6 million at this point. So I'm 38. I think that, and this, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but there's something that I'm announcing soon where we'll definitely get over that $7 million mark. So,
so September 16th, this drops. I don't know if it would be.
I'll be on tour with Kiss again. So we're announcing that soon. And same thing. They could have gotten any band, and they had David Lee Roth for a little bit in 2020, but they're like, hey, we want to, keep raising money. So like, I'll keep throwing paint.
That's badass. I got to ask, it's a weird question, but did you ever get to paint their face? I mean, you're a professional painter.
That's what I originally thought. I'm thinking, oh, they think I'm a makeup artist. I paint faces. I get it. No, I wish. Actually, that would be a really cool video of me trying to paint their face.
I want to see that for sure. So I got to ask you, man, being on the road, being in a relationship or parenting, that cannot be easy. I mean, I travel a fair amount in business, but I don't think it touches. You were talking 100 shows, and I'm doing the math in my head how many days that might be away. How does that work for you, brother? How do you balance the two worlds? Because I mean, that's some serious sacrifice away from the family and someone people that you love. How does that work for you, bro?
So I'll be honest, being away for 100 plus shows a year, it doesn't work. It does. It's, there's a really important lesson that I learned this past year from being home, which was we could never go back to that again, especially if I want to be the best father that I can be to my kids and a partner to my girlfriend as we grow our relationship as well. And it's impossible. And that really inspired me to create other parts of my business, of my creative business, so that I don't have to be gone as much. Or if I am, it's more impactful, or whether that's financially, or whether that's spiritually, or philanthropic. And so I think that I definitely pushed it to the max. I was literally like, let's go in every show. But in all honesty, retrospective, it's not healthy for relationships. I'm blessed that I have amazing friends and understanding family and my kids, and I'm blessed. But as my kids get older, they're going on 9 and 11 now. I want to be there for as much as I can. So, the great challenge is for me as a creative businessman now, how do I expand this business? How do we teach? How do we create multimedia platforms? I mean, there's so much more, and there's more challenges, but again, my goal now is how do I just be home more for more moments and memories?
Yeah, and this may tie into, I'm not sure, but one of the topics is self-inflicted growth. Was it literally because the pandemic, clearly a lot of us, things were heaped upon us where, look, I'm used to being on the road. In fact, my family's used to me being on the road. Now I'm around all the time. So we have to grow in our relationship. Am I on the right path with this, or is that a completely different topic?
That's totally on track with this too. I've always really been comfortable in the self-inflicted growth. I've done it even when I did America's Got Talent. When that opportunity came, I had told them, "Great, I can do it. I need 6 minutes per painting," and they said, "Great, you get 90 seconds, or if you go over, you get disqualified." So even then, I had to do a good quality painting, get done in time, and be entertaining in 90 seconds. And so there's moments like that. And there's so many other, moments where we're doing 6 shows in 7 days across the country. And, it's like, why am I throwing myself in this situation? But I'm looking at those like, how do I stay healthy? How do I get rest? What, I've always done well in environments where it's self-inflicted, but I think the key word is growth. Not that you have to keep doing the same thing over and over, but what do I learn from this? How do I grow from this? And that's got to be the outcome of all these really hard situations. This past year was incredible because everything I didn't have time for before in my business, I got to work on. And that was pretty much everything. From doing more e-commerce to just cataloging the hundreds of paintings I have in inventory that no one saw ever. They were just sitting there. And I think that time was this time was what I needed. And now going forward, I don't know what my next self-inflicted growth opportunity will be, but I'm looking for it. I'm really, really ready for it, knowing that my goals are different now.
Yeah, I want to ask about just being, again, this is on the road, but you mentioned staying healthy and doing 6 shows in 7 days, I think you said. I mean, I imagine being on the road, it's hard enough to find any amount of routine, but when you're beholden to schedules, to flights, to buses, I mean, all the stuff that goes along with, how do you keep a semblance of health on the road, brother? Because so many of us listening or in the audience, they're entrepreneurs, they're businessmen and women that are traveling. How did you find that balance to keep yourself healthy spiritually, mentally, body wise on the road?
That's hard, but it's not impossible because every hotel around the world mostly has a gym to work out in, or I love to run, so that's where I was able to benefit from this. I bring my running shoes a lot, and I just go for a run. At least 3 miles. I have to keep moving, especially what I do is so physical as well. I do think it would be different if I was an artist sitting and I didn't have to move as much. I may not be as motivated to stay healthy, but I do, and that's part of the show is to move very, very fast on stage. But uh, I I would say always going back to, look, you can't drink every day on the road. What, some days, some weeks when I knew it was a crazy week, I just couldn't drink because like, have any wine to wind down because I knew that it would add up. And so I would just set goals for myself. I'm going to have some wine when I get home. I also, sometimes I would have wine before I go on stage to just loosen up. I just stopped doing that because it was creating bad habits that I was relying on that to loosen up and just be more clear minded. And I would also add to the health part is really like the mental health. Uh, finding moments to meditate or just get your mind right. That to me was probably half the battle, was just finding quiet and time to hear my own thoughts. So
Yeah, I imagine that's a real balance. Again, not being in the arts world, but whether it's rock and roll, whether it's artists, you hear of accessing that part of the brain. Look, normal human beings getting to that deep inner work in that, I think it's the left side, right? Getting real into there. Sometimes there's some artificial substances. Maybe it's mushrooms, maybe it's wine. I don't know, but that would be maybe a tricky one to navigate, to say, look, I really can access some crazy shit when I drink wine before my thing, but yet I'm feeling it. So is that really a thing? And I'm curious if you know. I don't know. It's just what I've heard. Is that really something that can help us access? And is there a safe way to do it?
I think so. And that's just only based on my experience. I think this, to create, you can use those, those things. And I've only really had drinks. I've had a little bit of weed in the past, but not to the extent where it really helps me create, but to really loosen up my inhibition to things that stop myself from thinking. To create, those things help. Any stimulants that are safe for you, but to actually perform, I I think that that's a different game. And for that, I do better when I'm more clear-minded. I don't want to be anything. I want to be completely engaged with my audience. And I've just learned from trying both that I like creating with some wine, and a cigar as well. But performing, I've got to be completely clear and I've got to be sharp and on my game for that.
So as you're navigating the world, and I'm trying to look through your eyes to say, you see a tree and you're like, dude, I want to paint that thing. Or maybe you're writing this down, or a building where I'm just like, oh, it's a great building. But you're like, oh, I can make something from this. Do you catalog, do you journal these things that you want to do future products on or future performances on? Or is it just always come natural and in the moment for you?
It mostly all comes natural. I wish I had a system where I journaled or took notes, but what helps is creating as soon as I can. So not hesitating to put things off. And if they do, I realize that they can go away. So I try to act in the moment and get the idea out so that I'm not going to lose it. And then I'm constantly doing that. I mean, I even in my studio, I'll probably do 3 paintings today just to get ideas out, just to stay moving. And when you have that constant flow, you're never really putting ideas to the side. You're just creating them or jotting them down somehow. But I don't have a system. I just do it. I just go all in. Even if it's music that I hear that's inspiring me for a show, I'll save it. And as soon as I can, I'll actually put it into the music editing program and just start piecing it up, save it, and then I'll recall it later on, or I'll go look at my most recently saved files. But you just got to act. You have to take away the hesitation and get to work right away.
And I think people could take this in business and just, you get inspired, act. So you've mentioned Denny Dents, I think you said his last name.
Yeah, Denny Dent.
Okay. You've mentioned him, you've mentioned music. What else really inspires you, brother, to perform every single time, so that, like you said, let's go win every single time on stage? What is it, man, that's really inspiring you to do that?
I think one of the biggest things that move me is once you get a taste of what you are capable of truly living what you're created for. And I've been blessed to have many of these moments, and they're all different, but there's this common theme of everything I do before and how it affects everything in the moment, and then how it creates and inspires what's next. And I'm always thinking about, how do I live my best life to set up that scenario, to actually act in the moment of this is what I'm created for. So I think that becomes a filter for everything leading up to the shows, even when there's a lot of bullshit to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to live for the act of my purpose and what I'm here for. And that means constant reminders. That means I was talking to a friend this morning about, lazy fat David wants to sleep till noon and eat 3 McGriddles, and probably light up a cigar in the morning. But that's not going to get me closer to that moment to be ready when I get to act in my full purpose. So I just try to keep that in mind. I would also add that I have this hobby that I've been into lately, which is stand-up paddleboarding. I'm sure you guys do it in Florida. I don't know. There's a lot of creatures in the water there, but I started doing it a couple years ago, and I've gone out there on the water, and there's something about that space that really brings a clarity to me. And I don't know if anyone else does this out there, but you just have this one thing you do outside of your passion. I'm talking about living in your purpose. I've got, it's like my place to go to, and I'm able to reset and come back and get back to that work. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but I think just trying to find constant reminders of, look, we're going to do this because it'll get us closer to acting in our purpose.
Well, I imagine that quiets the world for you. I mean, you're out there by yourself on the stand-up paddleboard. You're probably, whether you're actively meditating or you're just soaking it in the moment, 100%. It's a great activity. I don't do it as much in Florida because of gators and snakes and whatnot, but it's definitely a thought. I want to go totally opposite because I've asked you about what inspired you. As an artist, I imagine failure is just inevitable as any of us, whatever failure is. Do you have a process when maybe you've done a show and you flip it and they're like, eh, does it affect you, brother? And do you have a process to say, you know what, no problem? I'm just curious how the way you look at that.
There's a lot of times where I feel this failure, even while I'm creating, when something's just not coming to life. And then even afterwards, I know the difference between that was a great job or that was awesome. And I carry this weight with me. I mean, I carry it on the plane back home. I honestly carry it until the next time I create. And that could be 24 hours, that could be 24 days. Usually it's not that long, but however long it is, there's been so many different times where I just like, I come home from a trip and it's just, man, those were just not great paintings, and I just didn't connect with the crowd. But I tell myself this, and I also tell artists this, that you've just got to put up the next canvas. And the answer to your failure has to be whatever you do on this canvas, whatever you create. And this is your chance now to say, what would you do better on that portrait? Do it again, or do another one that has those qualities, or you had that preparation that's better than that last one. So I carry it until then, but even when I'm carrying it, I'm still reminding myself that, look, I'm going to go get that other canvas up, and I'm going to look forward to that. So it takes a little bit of the weight off.
Well, I hope so, because again, being an audience member that just oohs and ahs every time, you bring joy to so many. I want to know, man, you said you've been working on some pretty cool stuff through the last couple of years. What is kind of on the forefront, maybe the next 4 to 5 years? What is David working on, man? What can we look forward to seeing?
Well, one thing that we're expanding here in my studio and in my business is really bringing all of my printing in-house. So I've had publishing deals in the past, and I was never really part of the quality control. It was just, they just paid me a royalty, and I got really, I don't know, jaded from that whole process. And I just stopped doing prints for a long, long time. I started getting into them in 2020, and I started with, man, I mean, I was having prints done by a local printer. I had them in these bins in my house, and I was figuring out shipping fulfillment and finding these websites to help me in these tutorials. And over the year, I was just obsessed with this how do we fulfill faster or better? How do we have the printer do the fulfillment? How do we develop that relationship with them? And I start thinking more so about just scaling that creative process. The more that I can create, that this process to get it out to the world can live on its own. And so now what we're doing is, I believe the term is vertical integration. Is that where we're just doing the creating, the scanning, the printing, the marketing? I mean, everything out to the consumer, and we're in the middle of that right now. And it's just based on what we learned from the past year. So going forward, I would say really using this time and these opportunities to build a real creative brand. I'm inspired by, we did a collaboration with Deadmau5 recently. He's a big EDM DJ, but he's a brand. We were working with his team, and I'm doing this whole process, but just taking notes and learning. Like, oh, this is what it's like to have a brand, and this is how you do these collaborations, and that's what I want to build for the future. And that's not just a dream, but we're really applying that as a goal as we do the work right now. And as I'm putting together the team as well to help with that. I already have an incredible team, but we've got some people that are coming in to help with this as well. So, getting into licensing as well, licensing the intellectual property to more products. And then obviously we've got some other multimedia projects as well. I can say I've been writing and working on a book for the past year and a half, and I really haven't shared about it publicly besides now, but that's something that we are closing out very soon. I'm working with two incredible writers who are helping me write this, Sharon and Brad, and I can't wait to put this out to the world as well.
Brother, the world can't wait to receive it because it's going to be amazing. I'm excited to, as much as I've heard about your journey and today and our mutual friend Taro has told me about it, I cannot wait to read this book. It's going to be incredible. Is there anything I should have asked you? I just didn't know enough to say, David, what do you want to leave the audience with? Is there anything I missed that you're like, man, I got to share this before we get done?
No, I think this is an amazing conversation, and I would just follow up by likewise. I've seen the transformation you've done with a friend of ours, their son, and I was just completely inspired by just seeing his transformation. And then I talked to him, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "Well, I can't really share, And whatever it is, it's working, and I was just inspired by you and what you're doing, and so. No, I appreciate the time to share on your platform, and and also just say you're doing amazing things out there, and I'm literally seeing the transformation in people's lives.
Oh, I appreciate that, brother. He's doing the real work. I'm just a guide every once in a while saying a couple things, and he kills it. Where can our listeners connect with you online, David? I'm sure it's easy to find, but where's the best place to connect with you online?
Yes. So if you look up Garibaldi Arts on any social media platform, I'm on Instagram a lot. We do live streams on YouTube at least once a week or once every other week as well. And you can really follow and subscribe at Garibaldi Arts all over social media.
Awesome. Brother, I cannot thank you enough for being here, bringing the energy that you do. And I love the work. As you know, I gush a little bit when I start looking at the art and I think about some of the shows I've seen. I just appreciate how you show up in the world, brother. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to have that bottle of wine together.
Yes, we absolutely will. You guys, I can't even express. I need you to go look at what David does. It's unique. It's incredible. Check it out on YouTube. Go to Garibaldi Arts. It is truly remarkable. It's unique, and you will be very, very pleased that you did. Until next time, you guys, continue getting better every day. We'll talk to you then. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.